back on a fever where it's time to find out who George will pick this weekend. And by George, if he chooses your school, you have to be feeling good. After going 7-1 last week, he's now 12-4 on the season. So let's start with Danny Cervantes' group, as the Matadors are now off to their best start since 1990 with that 2-0 record. George, taking on Midland Greenwood to kick things off on Thursday night, and you visited with him this week for film session. What do you think of this Estacado team, and how does this compare to the past couple of playoff teams?
Well, I think this team is at this point, it's hard to tell where they're going to be at the end of the season, but I think at this point, compared to the last couple of years, this team is much farther ahead, just for the simple fact that they had so many guys coming back in their skill positions, their entire offensive line. I had several guys on defense, and a big boost this last week. Not only did they get Clarence Willard back as receiver, and you saw him catch a touchdown pass, but they got Kevin Wagner back, their outstanding cornerback who had knee surgery, the kid that led the team to the basketball state championship. So now they're kind of getting back into full strength. And already at 2-0, I mean, it's hard to imagine, that team getting any better, but they just might be. And I think this Thursday over at Estacado or at Littlefield, they're going to have an outstanding game. I look for them to win big over Midland Greenwood this week.
All right, Midland taking on Coronado in our next game. We've mentioned Butch Henderson, the Mustangs trying to figure out some turnover problems, trying to get that offense clicking. Craig Yender's group over at Midland, they were happy to sneak away with a win last week. He said he felt good about being 2-0. He might be feeling even better about being 3-0 this week.
He very well could. Yeah, this is a big game for Coronado. I don't know if they necessarily have to win this game, but they need to have a better showing than they have the last couple of weeks. They need to show more consistency. They need to make some plays when Coach Henderson says, like, they've got the ball hitting them in the hands and not dropping them. So they need to really have a good game. I just think it's going to be a little bit tough, for them to overcome a good Midland ball club that I think is really getting kind of close to some of their better playoff teams from the last few years. So, it's going to be a struggle, but I like Midland in this one over Coronado at Littlefield.
Mike's back in his Westerners group, still looking for their first win of the season, taking on Hereford in this one. But obviously, it may not come this week because Hereford's a good team. Hereford
is a good team. They had a tough loss last week against Tascosa. A game that they led for a good bit, but then allowed Tascosa to come back. I saw Coach Delosier at the press box Friday night after the Lubbock game, and he was just tired of hearing the two words "tough one" because that's what everybody had told him. So I don't think this one will be as tough. I think Lubbock still got a lot of questions they're trying to answer, and going on the road, I know Hereford's looking forward to the home game. I like the Herd in this one. Look for the bull to snort a little bit this week over in Hereford.
All right, another matchup for Frenship against the 2-5A team, taking on Monterey. And we mentioned the rushing defense at Monterey. Frenship with a good rushing attack and with Bobby Huey. How does this one come out?
Yeah, you mentioned this could be a bad matchup for Monterey. They've been having trouble stopping the run, and Frenship's doing an outstanding job running the football. But look for Monterey to kind of stack the line, because really right now Frenship has not shown the ability to throw the ball consistently. And so look for Monterey to kind of stack the line. Maybe send 8, 9 in the box to try to stop that run until Frenship can prove that they can throw the ball and maybe throw it deep a little bit. But I still think that Frenship's going to have a little bit too much. I think it may be a low-scoring game, but look for Frenship to win on Friday night there at Tiger Stadium.
Littlefield taking on Shallowater in our next game, and we know a lot about Patrick Barrio, Tracy Huseman, and that running game that they have going on in there. A little bit closer of a game than maybe we might have thought against Idalou. How does this one come out against Shallowater?
Well, I think last week was a little bit of a wake-up call for Littlefield, against Idalou, in a close game. But Coach Huseman was kind of saying, they may need a little bit of a wake-up call. This game is interesting for me because it's such two contrasting styles. You got Littlefield with its pounding running game, and you got Shallowater with its spread offense that Coach Maxfield has brought over to Shallowater. The Mustangs got them a big win on the road against River Road last week. And this being at home is going to be a tough test. But I think Littlefield's just going to be a little bit too more physical, too bruising to go to lose this game. I like Littlefield in this one.
We talked about Greg Pointer, the system he came from over at Muleshoe to take over to Roosevelt. Muleshoe, our next team, taking on Andrews in this one, a battle of two undefeated teams. Cooper Washington just seems to be another guy to fit into this offense, and he can kind of do everything now.
He certainly can. His second game at quarterback, and he's already looks like he's fitting in real well there. And we know what kind of defensive end he is. The commitment to Oklahoma. This is going to be an interesting game because Andrews is kind of on their way up. They've gotten two very solid wins, and has been a program at the 3A level that's been down for a while, and now they host a interesting Muleshoe team that went to Portales this last week and really laid the wood to the Rams over there. So I think Muleshoe goes on the road again this week. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a tighter game, a lower scoring game than maybe what either team is used to, but I think Muleshoe will prevail in the end, go with the Mules.
Sundown taking on Abernathy in our next game, and we question what the Sundown team would be like in that first game against Post. They seem to be just pounding the ball, running it really well every single week so far.
Yeah, Coach Jerry Palmore has taken over and really seems to have Sundown back at the level that they played at, for about 2 or 3 years, there from, about 07 to 09, around that area. So, they're really playing well. Now they go over to Abernathy. Sundown's had 2, fairly easy games. I wouldn't say the post game was easy, but they caught a Seagraves team that was down at the time. Abernathy with a big win this last week over Slayton. So 2 teams that are really kind of building some momentum right now, but I think Sundown's probably just going to have too much. Look for the 1A to beat the 2A this week. Go with the Roughnecks.
You mentioned Seagraves. They're 0-2 now, taking on a Springlake-Earth team that's 2-0. Does it end up 3-0 and 0-3 after this one?
I think so. I think that's probably a pretty good bet. I think Springlake-Earth probably just has too many weapons. Blake Betts on offense. He's got just weapons at his disposal in the receiving game and in the passing game. And I think one of the more underrated defensive players on the South Plains in linebacker Devin Johnson. Look for Springlake-Earth to win big over Seagraves this week. I like the Wolverines.
All right, so Georgia's picks for Week 2: Estacado over Midland Greenwood, Midland over Coronado, Hereford over Lubbock High, Frenship over Monterey, Littlefield over Shallowater, Muleshoe over Andrews, Sundown over Abernathy, and Springlake-Earth over Seagraves. And that'll do it for us for this edition of Football Fever. As always, we'd like to thank everyone over at LISD TV for everything that they do. Be sure to check the website for more information on the upcoming games and repeats of the show. You can also head over to LoneStarVarsity.com to follow the Avalanche-Journal's coverage of your favorite high school teams for all the news and scores from around the area. For George Watson, I'm Travis Cram. We'll catch you next time right here on the Feed.
It's going to be a struggle, but I like Midland in this one over Coronado at Lowry Field.
Mike Speck and his Westerners taking on Hereford in our next game. Lubbock High is still looking for their dang it. Blah, blah.
Close. That may have been a little bit of a wake-up call for Littlefield. Coach was
for Seagraves. And that'll do it for us for this week on Football Fever. Be sure to, oh man, got way ahead of myself. I jumped like 3 sentences in that.